So the first aspect of vocal technique I'd like to cover with you today is breathing. Breathing is very important for singing because it's our way of making sure we've got the fuel for the instrument. So when I teach singing, we talk a lot about not only how to get the air in effectively, but how to allow it to come forth in a way that's going to help you to make the best sound. So if the breathing is not working very well, then it's likely that you'll have either an underpowered sound, which is the most common, or perhaps if the breath's not being managed well up here, you'll have a sort of fluffy, air escapey sort of sound, so an unfocused sound. If your voice is being produced with too much pressure, it could be that you're blasting too much air at your vocal cords. So good breathing is really important. And the first step is to really just ensure that you are breathing well for singing. So breathing well for singing, it's just a sort of slightly exaggerated version of normal breathing. It's not sort of some complex rocket science. It's very, very manageable for you to get started with doing some really good breaths. It'll just, at the very least, sort of re-energize your voice and bring your attention to really the fuel and the heart of what good singing is all about. So just to recap, the diaphragm, which is positioned just at the base of your rib cage and dome-shaped here, will descend when you take in a breath for air, for singing. So as you breathe in, that diaphragm, if you can imagine inside you, that will descend. So the idea is that you make space for the air, so you don't suck or hoover air in. You make space for the air, in it goes, and the diaphragm has gone down. So it's a sort of, depending on the phrase you have coming up, it's a sort of more than a usual breath, a slightly more energized breath. I often say it's like plopping a rock into a sock. It's a kind of quite a quick process for most phrases. If you've got a massive long phrase coming up, you'll obviously need to then think about taking in some more. But for your sort of, let's say, an average phrase in a song, you're going to need a nice, quick, effective breath. The diaphragm has gone from its usual position to a downward position, so it's sort of coming, as you breathe in, the air is going to displace the diaphragm downwards. So ideally you'll have an expansion. So when you breathe in, you're going for expansion. You don't want contraction and you don't want tension. So ideally the shoulders are nice and relaxed and low, and you're going to be just allowing that air to come in. Hopefully you'll find expansion in your rib cage at the front and also at the back as well. So the air's come in, the diaphragm's gone down, and then for our purposes today, we're going to let the air out to a s kind of sound. And that way we can ensure that the air is coming out at the rate we want and under a little bit of pressure. So we're going to breathe in and then try and keep that going as long as is comfortable for you. Obviously, to have a little bit of a training effect, we're going to go a little bit further perhaps than is entirely comfortable. So I would urge you to start your vocal reinvigoration with a few really good effective breaths. So moving the ribcage out, letting the diaphragm descend, and then delaying its ascent by making a sibilant sound. It's going to eventually have to come up, but we're not allowing the diaphragm to go we're delaying that ascent of the diaphragm whilst keeping the shoulders nice and relaxed and keeping this really good feeling of space inside. So let's just try once more. So we're going to breathe in nice and effectively, as if we're plopping that rock into the sock, and letting it out under that little bit of pressure with a sibilant sound. And as you're sibilanting the sound out, if that's a verb, I don't think it is, I want you to feel all the muscles that are involved in that process, because those are the ones we're going to be targeting for making a really good sound in singing.